Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Thank you very much for staying with us. APC Chieftain Kasim Afegwa is my guest tonight and has been reacting to some of the allegations raised by the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership as we focus on Edo election and the raging controversy. Prince, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. Thank you. Now, two more issues before we move on to other matters. There are still allegations of overvoting, missing results, and the manipulation of Beaver's records at INEC headquarters. But for Beaver's and how it should have positively transformed our electoral process in Nigeria, are we making any progress? Have we made progress with incorporating technology into our electoral process?
We have made progress. We are making progress. And just like every other thing in life, it's an evolutionary process that leads from good to better, and just in that order. You cannot have a perfect election anywhere in the world. There would generally have, some kind of infractions, but those infractions may not be enough or substantial enough to vitiate the outcome of the election or invalidate the outcome. If you have a scenario of having elections in 4,516 polling units, in the case of Edo, for example, and you have some infractions and irregularities in about 200 or 250 polling units. The outcome from those kind of area will not invalidate the entire result from other 4,000 plus polling units. So the point is, you cannot, on the one hand, claim that certain things had happened, and you now went back to the same body you are condemning, the INEC, to say, okay, you got your information from the back end. How come you now trusted the back end data if you don't like anything about INEC? So how do you have access to the back end, the beavers and all that? How many beavers did you go through? I have given you the procedure of elections in terms of collation and who can take action on certain infractions and all of that. So it is
Prince Afegwa, I mean, with everything you've said tonight, are you insinuating or alleging that Athena Center may have hacked into INEC's database?
It is very possible. That's number one. Number two, on election day, people were posting results of Edo 2020 election, Guba election, which Obaseki won in 2020. They were posting it on the IRF. So when we were seeing results flying all over the place, we took time to look at the pattern. And we now saw dates that this election was 2020. We were marveled. That is one. Secondly, after the election, PDP wrote formally to INEC, in line with the Electoral Act, of asking for review of the election within 7 days after the election. Is provided for in the Electoral Act. And in that review, PDP presented results as declared by INEC. They presented their own based on the result they obtained from their party agents and situation room, EC8A, EC8B. And they did a comparison. It will shock you to know that PDP acknowledged APC as the winner of the election with 4,963 votes. That is PDP's own record. They were quarreling with the fact that INEC declared results score APC for 4,000 more than them. But their own results, they say 4,623. So I remember a governor in this country, Aminu Tambuwa, he defeated his opponent with 442 votes, just 442 votes. So what is all the noise about? What is all the noise about? If your own records from your party agents and from your situation room analysis and all that score APC as the victor of that election, then why cry foul over nothing? So I think they just want to tarnish the image of INEC, tarnish the image of the election, so that they can begin to whip up public sentiments and for them to see a new election as another one that if they had...
Before we move on, Prince, how confident is your party? How ready is your party to defend its mandate at the tribunal? Because I remember Aswe Godalo told me on this program that there is enough evidence to reclaim his mandate at the tribunal.
Alajumoke, we have moved beyond defending mandates. our governor, Senator Monday Okpebolo, is already taking Edo to a new pedestal. A new Edo has risen. We have put behind us the vestiges of combative politics, the vestiges of high-handedness, division, legacy PDP versus Obaseki PDP, and all of that. If anything, ex-Governor Obaseki was actually the architect of the failure of PDP because he quarreled with virtually everybody in Edo State. And under such an atmosphere of division, you can have election that way. Edo people are very enlightened people, heavily sensitized, heavily mobilized, and they understand the dynamics and intricacies of our level of homogeneity as a state and as a people, driven by one common agenda of rich cultural heritage and a sense of communal solidarity across board. When you have a governor, a former governor, who was quarrelsome and fighting everybody, you don't expect that they will win election. It's not possible. So it was an easy win for us because we know that inside them, they were heavily divided. Do you remember that former Governor Obaseki went to INEC office, trying to twist them? What was his function as a chief executive of the state? What was he doing inside INEC office? What did he go there to do? To influence them? To cajole them?
So, Prince, the tenor of former Governor Obaseki is gone. Let's talk about Monday Okpebolo. It's been 3 weeks since he assumed office. Why has he directed all 18 local government chairmen in the state to submit their statements of account for the period beginning September 4, 2023? What does he intend to do with that?
Okay, it is good for us to, because we set up a transition committee when prior to his inauguration, and that transition committee did not enjoy the kind of cooperation and the kind of information we needed to get from all the different ministries, parastatals, and agencies of government. And so we recommended to the governor that they will need to do a further probing into the status report that should naturally form the takeoff point for the new governor. And so the governor inaugurated an asset verification committee, 15-member asset verification committee, barely 2 weeks ago. And he has given us specific terms of reference to look into several other areas with respect to the finances of Edo State. Local government is also part and parcel of the executive because they normally operate what they call joint allocation account. That's state government and local government. And so we want to see how much has accrued to the local government in 2, 3, 4, 5 years back and how they have spent their money. Because the information we had, and which we still have, is that they get allocation from federal government. They are almost twisted to go to Sterling Bank to go and sign signatures that they have received this money. But in actual sense, they are not, given access to their money so that they can work. Go to local governments in Edo State, you can't see any capital project. They just pay them salaries, pay staff salaries. In some cases, and in some cases they just leave the staff to just groan under very harsh economic conditions. We've seen scenario since we came on board. They have written us, Algon and some other, and Norgay, they have written complaining about the number of months they have been owed salary. And this is the same government when they were on stream, telling everybody that they were paying salary on the 23rd of every month. But we are having almost an arrears of about 4.something billion, if my reading is right, because they gave us documents. And that is salary arrears at the local government level. So the governor used the meeting with the local government chairman to say, please, we want to see your status report with respect to finances. Let us see the pattern of behavior, the character of expenses and all of that. If you got 12 billion or you got 10 billion between XYZ time to this time, let's see how you even spent it. Let's see your statement of accounting. That is the honorable thing to do in line with best practices, elsewhere. But for anybody to think that we are out for a witch hunt will be that they are also undermining.
That's my next question. I was going to ask you if Governor Monday Okpebholo is planning to probe former Governor Obaseki's administration?
We will definitely probe him. And part of the asset verification that we are doing is part of probing. Because we are concerned about the finances that are accrued.
And you said that's not witch hunting.
Despite those finances.
Prince, and you said that's not witch hunting the former governor.
Call it any name. I don't like to call a spade by a different name. Call a spade a spade. What is witch hunting? If he has presided over the collective patrimony of Edo people, taxpayers, and other persons who have been doing business in Edo State, and he received X amount at so point, it is the responsibility of the people represented in the governor to ask questions about how he spent that money. It is not his family's money. It is public money. And there has to be accountability, probity, and transparency in the conduct of public governance in any state. But oftentimes, we label probe of this nature or even inquisition, trying to know what transpired. We label the witch hunt. What is the meaning of witch hunt? I even want to have wizard hunts of whatever that has gone wrong with Edo finances. We need to ask questions. We need to see how cost-effective your pricing was, how cost-effective your project was. If you say you constructed 3 kilometers of road, tell us, if we don't have access to the tender, tell us how much you expended on the 3-kilometer road. If you are spending 3 billion to construct 3-kilometer road, the people deserve the right to interrogate you, to ask questions. So anybody should not be afraid of whether there's a wizard hunt or there's a witch hunt anywhere.
I'm sure you'd agree with me that you politicians made that word very popular. But let's go on, because Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo swore in 3 judges who were shunned by the Godwin Obaseki administration during the swearing-in of 5 of their colleagues last year. What necessitated this move?
Well, not just swearing them in. They are swearing in, was backdated to May, when the other colleagues of these judges were sworn in. The NJC at the federal level recommended 8 persons to be sworn into the position of judges. It wasn't the responsibility of ex-governor Obaseki. But out of being vindictive to people, out of this same combative politics that he played, he sworn in 5. He didn't like the face of those 3 others. And so Monday Okpebholo, as the governor, has the right to just carry out what the NJC has since perfected in May. And so they'll be sworn in and they've been backdated to May. And they will be paid their full salaries for those number of months that they have missed when their colleagues were sworn in. And that is the Midas touch that Senator Monday Okpebholo is bringing to the state. There is a level of tranquility now, serenity, quietude, and some kind of robust engagement that permeates, the different strata of social and political life in Edo State. He has also returned full powers to the Oba of Benin. Obaseki tried to balkanize the Benin Kingdom that covers 7 local governments, trying to generate some kingdoms out of that, which was like an abomination. We championed this during the campaigns. We said it to Edo people, and thank God that the governor has restored the powers of the great Oba of Benin Kingdom, II. And so we are elated and we are happy about that. Not just that, he has commenced construction of projects. We are doing flyover bridges. They have commenced working already. 3 are going to be done in Benin, Ramat Park area, the Sapele Road, and Dawson Street. You see, when you see a governor who wants to work, you will see it from the very first day he becomes governor. Not those one who will become governor and they will wait for 8 months without appointing cabinet members. Obaseki waited 8 months before he appointed commissioners. This particular governor has started.
But Prince, still on the 3 judges who were sworn in, I know the governor said he did this in fulfillment of his campaign promise to right the wrong of his predecessor. But there are those who say the governor has kicked off on a wrong note. They called that action undue interference, which would make these 3 judges forever indebted to him and perhaps do his bidding when the time comes. Is this Governor Okpebholo also setting the tone for politicizing the judiciary just as his predecessor allegedly did?
No, you can't compare the behavior the style, the candor, the aura, the emotional intelligence of a Monday Okpebolo with that of the combative, quarrelsome nature of an ex-governor Obaseki. They are miles apart. And I'm saying this with all this sense of responsibility, having been part and parcel of the power process in Edo for the past 15, 16 years. And so anybody who is thinking that will be missing the point altogether. You have a man who they denigrated him. They call him all sorts of names. He is going to prove them wrong by the kind of actions he's taking already. Within 2 weeks of his emergence as the governor, having been sworn in on November 12th, come to Edo and see the kind of palpable air of serenity that permeates, everywhere. When you have a man who understands the feelings of the people, who can walk on the streets, and you see people celebrating, hailing and praising him and all of that, it's different from one whom we have even thrown a challenge to come and walk the street of Benin now as an ex-governor. Let Obaseki come. We place a price tag of 50 million to give if he can come and walk the street of Benin with our governor.
It's interesting because, friends, it's interesting because there is no name you APC members have not called or chieftains have not called Godwin Obaseki. But please correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first time in the history of Edo politics where a governor and his deputy governor would part ways in this manner. And I'm surprised that it happened this way because Governor Obaseki had recently said he does not want to be remembered for his many fights. He does not want to be remembered for his clash with opponents. And APC is painting this picture of there is nothing good about the former governor. So how do you describe the way former President Olusegun Obasanjo described him? He describes him as a builder who impacted on the lives of his people. He calls him a pace setter.
Well, thank you for the comparison. You even made a very valid historical point. That is the first time that the deputy and his governor and his deputy will go on this war path to the point that one was, wrongfully impeached according to the verdict of the courts. You see, it is part of the bad behavior of the former governor. And President Olusegun Obasanjo was only playing the role of a statesman. That's their usual character. You don't expect him to come to Stella Obasanjo Hospital, which was haphazardly left uncompleted, and try to commission it, and you are presenting it as if it was a completed project. Until we carry out inspection of that particular property, we saw that so many things were left undone, some very shoddy jobs and all of that. Stella Obasanjo Hospital has existed under Lucky Igbenedion as governor. It was built. What Obaseki was doing was to expand it, and there's no harm in that. That's good. But please, why are you commissioning a project that was still ongoing? The cost we are not aware of. We asked questions. Nobody was ready to tell us. They say they run e-governance platform. We try to access documents on e-governance platform. Everything will be shut down. The back-end code is with former Governor Obaseki and some of his lieutenants and all of that. So how do you move forward? Thank God that we have some eggheads when it comes to technology. And so they've been able to decode some of this thing, and we're able to get some very skeletal information, which we are working with now. So what they call e-governance, for me, it was e-corruption. And so Obaseki may have done some things, no doubt about that. A man cannot be completely bad. He has done some things, but we are saying that on account of what accrued to the state, in the 8 years that he presided over the state as a governor, what we are seeing on ground is, are not commensurate to what should be in terms of the productivity. Because it took the state from 43 billion in 2016. We are now at 500 billion. Look at the domestic debts and all of that. If you add external debts to that, we are shooting over 700 billion. And when you raise questions, they will tell you it's the volatility of the dollar. When the dollar started climbing to the roof. So for God's sake, he may have done some things, no doubt about that. But please, the money Edo got, the kind of resources we got. You remember the last days of Governor Obaseki when we had EFCC had to arrest his accountant general. They were trying to pull out certain money, about 14 billion left the bank from nowhere. We didn't know how until EFCC tracked it, and they tried to arrest the money. Let me put it that way. By arresting the accountant general and some other person, we were also arresting the money. And so too many things, too many underhand transactions. And that is why this asset verification we are doing is part of it. There is a vehicle recovery. We have recovered about 42 vehicles in the last 2 weeks. People were carrying vehicles to their home, going to hide, Prado jeeps, Land Cruiser jeeps, Hiluxes, and all of that in people's home, government property. For God's sake. What are we talking about? So we need to verify the assets of the state and ensure that we are taking off from a point of view of strength and not of weakness.
All right, Prince, as we wrap up tonight, let's talk about, there's a new sheriff in town, Monday Okpebolo, and you all call him breath of fresh air. He's been sworn in as the governor of Edo State, and agreeably, he would have to up his ante to ensure that he meets the expectations of the people who are eager for a quick fix to whatever issues they consider germane. Governor Obaseki has done his bit, for which he has been applauded for. The rate of unemployment in Edo State, what hope is Governor Okpebolo giving to teeming Edo youth as he steers the affairs of the state for the next 4 years?
Well, thank God that Okpebolo is coming in at this time, because if we had allowed the pattern of Obaseki's conduct to continue, there will be a complete zero civil service in Edo State. He appointed PAMSEC from different places across Nigeria to come and be running Edo civil service. He appointed them like political aides. The civil service was left. People who were level 13 officers were made PAMSEC. People who were level 14 officers were made PAMSEC. Such an aberration in terms of civil service in the country and in the state. That was what we saw. In part, as part of our own findings So what would Monday Okpebolo do differently? That's the question. So what we are going to do, we will carry out staff audits, first and foremost, to establish the number of persons we have. Because Senator Monday Okpebolo had already, Governor Monday Okpebolo had already stopped those persons who were brought from different parts of the country to come and dominate our Edo civil service. He has already stopped that. And some other parastatals and agencies, that were being run by private individuals who had no stake in Edo collective patrimony. We have already stopped that. So we are going to carry staff audit to establish the level of ghost workers and what have you. And at the end of the day, when we know the actual number of civil servants we have in the state, we will add value to that if need be, and also create platforms where we can also recruit other people into Edo civil service to drive the business of governance.
All right, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Prince Kasim Efegwa, APC chieftain. Thank you so much for your time with us, and we hope that very soon we should be able to speak directly with the governor. It's high time we spoke with him, don't you think so, Prince?
No, you can speak to him anytime. All you need to do is just to write to us that you want to speak with the governor. I don't want television invitations to constituted authority. There has to be some level of decorum, some level of standard and procedure in doing that. Right. At times we take too much of our familiarity, in this business. So I appreciate this opportunity to give this explanation, and I want to thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Please have a great evening.